So what is really happening to residential real estate agents when it comes to buying and selling homes? We're going to set the record straight by going over some facts and myths here in the next 3 minutes. So before we continue with this video, I want to tell you about Minor Corzo with TLC Painting. He's our preferred contractor. He's the guy who's going to fix up your home before you sell it so you can make the most amount of money on the property. I want you to call him right now. His number is on the screen. And ask for a pre-listing renovation estimate on your home. Now on to the video. So you've been probably seeing all over the news information about residential real estate commissions and brokers' compensations and buyers and sellers and blah, 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 right? So what I wanted to do is just talk about a couple facts and myths that are going to be important to you as a buyer and a seller, so you can kind of identify exactly what's going on moving forward. So fact or myth, sellers are no longer obligated to pay a buyer agent commission in the sale of a property. So this is actually a myth as well. And this is being completely misrepresented in the news, if you've seen it. You were really never obligated at all to pay any sort of agents in the sale of your home. So, this occurs when people sell their houses to family members and things of that nature, right? If you did decide to sell your house through a real estate company and you did put it on the MLS, there was a point in time where you did have to put at least $1 as a buyer agency fee going towards the buyer agent when you posted the property on the MLS. Well, that has now been removed and been taken down to $0. So you're really not obligated to pay a buyer agent fee in the MLS at all anymore if you are selling your house through an agent through the MLS. So that is one thing that has been misrepresented in the news, is that this is something that you could never have done. Well, it's actually been something that you've always could have done, but maybe your agent didn't disclose that. So one thing about us is that we've been completely transparent in our dealings with our clients and offered them options as to what levels of service we wanted to provide them, and then what those fees were going to entail once they chose those services. Fact or myth, sellers can no longer pay a buyer agent commission or compensation. So this is actually a myth. So you are still allowed as a seller to offer a buyer agent compensation for as little or as much as you want. And in most cases, we're seeing still in this market, buyer agents being compensated. The only difference is, and it's really not a difference to you as a consumer, but more to the agents who are involved in the sale, is that you actually can't advertise the buyer agency compensation as of July 2024 in our multiple listing service in our MLS. So what that means is that you no longer can do it you no longer can advertise it on the website, but I can advertise it on my website. I can email it to buyers. I can text it, make phone calls and advertise it that way. So there is a potential loophole here to where we can actually offer you as a buyer, if the seller wants to, a seller concession to be of any number that can be used for whatever the buyer wants. So let's just assume that the buyer wants to help pay their closing costs. Those closing costs might entail lender fees, title fees, and they might include broker fees as well. So you might be able to pay a buyer agent that way. You can also even take that money to utilize towards repairs, or you can pocket it. Either way, it's something we're going to be learning more about as we go along, and you seeing how that impacts you as the buyer and the seller. But as of right now, seller concessions are a potential way of compensating buyer agents if buyer agents are not being compensated through the MLS, through the multiple listing service. So what does this mean to you if you're a seller? Well, as of right now, we're not seeing much changes whatsoever. The only changes are not be able to list a buyer agency compensation in our MLS. So that is one major change to us as an agent, not really much to the seller. So what does this mean to you if you are a buyer? So if you are a buyer, you must have a signed buyer representation agreement with an agent before you tour a house with that agent. So basically, this is something that's been part of our law for years. So nothing has really changed here either. There's just been a lot of agents that have been showing property without having that signed agreement in place. So we want to make sure that before you tour property, everybody knows how that agent is going to be compensated for the work and the services they're providing. So with all of this being said, there's a lot of questions, especially if you watch the news, as to what might happen to, real estate prices, what might happen to, the real estate market. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to give us a call. We're happy to answer any of them and be a resource for you when it comes to your housing needs. We're really not expecting there's to be any sort of change to our model and systems, as we provide, world-class 5-star experiences to our clients. So thank you very much for watching the video, and I hope you guys have a great day.